So this is the Arduino circuit number 13. This is using a force sensitive resistor, which is what this is. So when we press down on the surface of that circle right up here, it will give us a reading, which will in turn turn this LED on, and on the computer give us a readout of certain resistance or certain brightness of the LED, which we can then in turn find the pressure. So we've got our positive 5 ground, or positive 5 volts, our ground. We have our LED hooked up to pin number 9 over here. We have our 560 ohm resistor. We have a 10K resistor going to the ground side of our pressure resistor, which is hooked up to the A2 analog input. We also have power running to the other side of our pressure gauge. So when we plug this in and we hold that down and we put pressure on it, it turns our light on. So the more pressure you put on it, the brighter the LED is. The less pressure, the lighter. So if you squeeze it all the way, it turns it really bright. If you just barely tap it, it's kind of just barely on. And that's the pressure sensor. So this is the Arduino circuit number 13. This is using a force sensitive resistor. We are using this to basically light up an LED on our breadboard so that we can tell how much, give a visual indication of how much pressure we're applying to the gauge. So we've set our inputs and our sensor pin. So we have our, basically our force gauge or pressure gauge hooked up to pin number 2, which is the analog pin, so it's an input. And then we have our output, which is our LED hooked up to pin number 9. So in our loop here, so we basically, as we apply pressure to the strain gauge, or the pressure gauge, the voltage is increased. So the output to the LED is increased. So basically, the more you increase the pressure, the more the output intensity, light, of the LED is increased. So then and then the last part of the code here is that it writes it to the serial print, which is a window on here that records the values of the pressure gauge. So that's how the code works, and this is the pressure gauge. These are the readings that it's recording. So it basically starts at 0 when there's nothing, no pressure on the gauge. And then as you increase the pressure, it goes up to about 250, oh, I lied, it goes up to about 235, 236 when you have that fully pressed. And that's a pressure gauge.